Listen, friends, these are pretty frightful times, and a lot of people are afraid. I can understand that. We're afraid for people's health. We're afraid that the elderly in our lives might get sick and not make it through. We're fearful about the economic realities of this situation. The stock markets are crashing, our IRAs and 401ks and retirement funds are taking a hit. There's all kinds of fear in the air, unemployment, joblessness, etc., etc. The question is, what do we do with our fear in a time like this? And so I want to address, how do we overcome our fears in a fretful situation? Let me give you a couple of thoughts. First, I think you need to do what you can do in times like this. You got to take responsibility and act wherever you can. Fear tends to paralyze us. And so we have to choose to overcome the paralyzation and act where we can act. In my case, in the last few months, with all the conferences being canceled, it's going to cost us literally tens of thousands of dollars of revenues coming into our house. And the bills still have to get paid. So I understand why people would have financial fear. I have to do what I can. I'm going to try some new things that I've never tried before, online conferences, etc. Listen, you do what you can. That's the first step. I think about Psalm 62 verse 1, and Psalm 62 verse 1, I think he's driving at the point that there's a time in life when you've done everything you can do, you've said everything you can say, you've prayed everything you can pray, and all that's left is to wait upon the Lord. He says, "Be still, O my soul, and wait for the Lord." And that's what we have to do. We have to do our part sometimes and then wait for God. Second thing, I think we need to remember consciously that Jesus is on his throne. We need to fix our attention on Jesus' kingdom and his kingship. I have to remind myself that Jesus is on his throne. He isn't surprised. He isn't nervous, that we're in this for an eternal kingdom, and this is just a temporary world that we're passing through. And I have to remember that consciously. So I literally fix my mind on that daily. Third, I think it helps actually to face the worst possibilities with faith. And I know this seems a little contradictory. I don't want you to focus and sort of zone in on the worst possibilities and obsess about it. But I do think you have to face the reality that there might be some hard times coming for us. And I have to steel myself, fortify myself to face those difficulties with faith. Jesus promised that the Father took care of the birds of the air. How much more will he take care of you? And so I have to face the realities of the hardship with the faith that I have a good Father who provides for his children. Fourth, it really helps me to remember in times like this that God redeems. Romans chapter 8 says that God redeems everything that comes into our life to make us more like Jesus. It's not that everything that comes into our life is good. It's that God is so good. Even when evil comes to our lives, God can make good of it. And I think God can redeem this time in our lives personally to help us grow, to become more like Christ. And corporately, I think he can redeem it and to help us in our advancing of the kingdom to see more people come to faith. Listen, I think it's really important that we get a grip on our fears, because the number one command in Scripture is fear not. I think God says this more than anything else with good cause. I think God says this more than anything else because fear makes us selfish. I'm thinking about in Britain, they just recently published something about stop hoarding, stop getting more than you need. If you don't take more than you need, there'll be enough to go around. But if everybody hoards, there won't be enough. Fear causes us to be selfish. And it's unbecoming those of us who follow the God of the cross, the ultimate unselfish act. So we need to get our eyes on Jesus, not act in fear and in selfishness, But we need to act like Jesus, love like Jesus, look like Jesus, and have courage like Jesus in these troubling times. Fear not, for Jesus is still with you.